Nobody else? Chris?
Thank you, Worship. Maybe, while the library board is here, if you guys could speak to plans in general for the facility this year, is there any
Wish list?
programs, yeah, that type of thing, similar to what council saw from the museum?
Things of programs. We have a list of our programs that we already provide.
Is there any new ones?
Not right now, not that I know of.
If I could speak on that.
Would you stand up here?
Yeah. Because we are accommodating school for right now, some of the programs that we were looking at is a little bit cramped. So we're staggering them a little bit more than we usually would because we could usually double up on our programs. So we're just maintaining the existing ones that we have for right now.
Okay.
Last year's budget, it only went up because of minimum wage. We didn't increase it, our request from last year.
Okay. Nothing else? I see this is fine.
Can I ask about your Wine for Books event? How was it this year?
This year, we didn't get as good a turnout because every year we stagger it around, like there's Duck Unlimited, there used to be the Little Black Dress
Oktoberfest.
and Oktoberfest. And we schedule 4 or 5 months ahead of time because the majority of the community has their events booked. But at the last minute, 4 other events, like within a month of our event, 4 other events got booked on the same day.
Oh,
So we got hit, unfortunately.
So this year too, we've also talked, we're gonna probably move it into September because that has almost happened the year prior as well. So this year when we had our meeting about Wine for Books, we're talking about moving it into the last week of September or early November because October just becomes so packed between Oktoberfest and everything else. And so we don't face that problem again. We're talking about
Are they
moving
doing
it.
the Little Black Dress anymore?
No, but they've started something else now. So it was
Yeah.
like the Ducks Unlimited thing, Oktoberfest, and then they replaced the Little Black Dress with something else. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head to sort of.
I don't think they do it in October as much. I think they've gone more so during the summer. They haven't done the Black Dress for a couple of years.
Yeah. Maybe we should start that up or something.
Pardon me?
Maybe we should start that up.
The Little Black?
Little Black Dress for books for wine, wines for books. Little Black Dress or something.
Change up the
Change it up.
name?
Yeah. Do something different.
Does that answer?
yeah. No, there's a dozen more questions. Like in the library, if the citizens have books that they have read and are in really good condition, can they donate those to the library?
Definitely, yeah. We take in any donations, but if we do have duplicates, we will look at both of them and whichever is in better condition we'll keep. And at one point, Tom's Lake was creating their own community library. So if we had extras, we offered it to them and then we put it on our book cart.
What a great idea.
And it sounds like their library is supposed to be amazing. They put it into one entire classroom.
The portable that's been announced, has there been any conversations between the library and the school board as to what the timeframe look like?
I haven't heard if was there one ordered?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it was ordered, but the board resolved to bring a portable in for, I believe,
September 2019.
Okay, I just saw that was what was in the newspaper.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe you can give them a call.
That's exciting.
Yeah. Yes.
Back our space.
But is that what's projected as to?
That will get back the space that we want.
You guys will get all your library back.
Oh, okay.
Yay.
That's
Well, those out there.
I don't want the library at the end of the school where the library sits right now is, and I'm sure council agrees with me, it's a perfect spot for everything. So.
And then we can continue with our regular programming and possibly bring a new program with the extra space. With
The space
not
back.
the space given back.
As long as you don't need mudroom.
Marlena, proper office.
You know, one more year, ladies, and I'll be gone.
You're running
You
away.
can have the meeting or compromise.
Pretty tiny space there. 40 years this year in June.
Very nice.
Yes. So I can retire at any time.
She's a stayer.
No, you have to follow him all the way to grade 12.
Yeah, I thought that was
That's my
the
plan,
agreement.
but I'm feeling very tired.
Well, thank you ladies for coming tonight. We appreciate it. We like to work collaboratively with you guys, so if you guys have any updates for us, just get on the agenda. We want to stay open, transparent as much as we possibly can. And when we work together that way, it works great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are we able to leave or do we?
You have to stay for the
Yeah,
whole
sit
meeting.
through our entire 60-page revenue PowerPoint.
You can have a chocolate.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming.
Bye, Mark.
Okay, new business, number 1 recommendation.
The council received the budget proposals for Public Works, Water Fund, and Sewer Fund for approval.
Can I get a seconder?
Yes.
Any discussion? Christopher's bringing up his,
I'm bringing up the PowerPoint for 5.2, so
so would we put the cameras under public works?
the cameras are just under capital inspection project.
Because
Yeah.
public works needs cameras too. right?
Yeah, and the quotes we're looking at is for likely some kind of networked camera amongst all the village buildings, and focusing on the downtown core here, and then some of the public works, possibly one at the entrance of Bruce Park as well.
Yeah, there was a couple of trips down there last
Oh, look at this.
Hey! Might have been one of the crazy guys at the snowmobile race.
I
Yeah,
was
did
just
you
gonna
give
say
me?
that.
Yeah, he was really
We're
awesome.
we're still on this for approval here. We've kind of got off topic.
Well, Cartwright was giving us. a
5.1
presentation.
is, no, he's not.
No,
It's
not
on
for
the next one.
5.1, folks.
So
Yeah.
is this approved or not?
I asked if there's discussion, we're in a discussion right now, if there's any questions.
Oh, okay.
And nobody seems to have any questions.
That's one, that's the first one I've seen we get on you.
What?
No more questions?
No more questions.
All in favor?
Did you see
All
that?
right. Okay, Chris.
I'll tell Alistair to cut that part out.
Yes, it's your turn.
Okay.
First or second?
So, can I get somebody to read this?
No. The council determined the level of taxation for 2019.
Can I get a seconder?
Yes.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Chris?
Okay, network, connect now. Sorry, you guys, I'm just having some hiccups connecting to my printer to the screen.
When you need to be printed to your printer.
Well, I don't know why it's not showing this. Because it doesn't have any of my desktop icons either.
Plugged in?
Yeah.
Well, we didn't play with it while you were gone, so.
What in what's doing? Let me try something, guys. I'll shut this down because sometimes I've noticed it's been getting confused between the graphics card over in the office because I've got the two.
He's talking space here. This is the one.
I'm my worst enemy.
Build a wall, Donna.
I would be happy to build a wall.
Oh, there.
Space, that's all that goes past here. And all this stuff is moving.
You know why? Because I moved that desk.
Ah.
Usually he's in my space. then it slowly shoved his stuff back, and then he slowly
Well, I
shoved it
know,
back.
I did that too, but that's okay. It makes me fun.
Just restarting now.
As long as he's not putting his feet up on your side.
The stinky socks. Did you show Amy your picture on your phone?
Of the throne?
No, the other one. Of your girlfriend.
Hey. Oh, no.
Is that your girlfriend you saw last
I
night?
told her about it last night though.
Yeah.
Okay, you got our
His
curiosity up.
friend, our local wildlife was out and about again.
Oh.
Our hitchhiker.
Yes.
Let's go.
I thought you was living in Dawson.
No, she lives at Royal Supernova.
Okay.
I saw her in Hythe 3 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah, she
She gets around.
Get around, get around.
What is going on? I can't
I don't know, we
get
get to
Can we
watch
just
you.
use it by paper?
I didn't print it. It's a 60-page PowerPoint. Why is this not?
Sam,
That's
you
all
better-
huddle.
Huh?
You better help him.
I don't know how to do that. That's his thing. He
Oh,
usually
you
sets it up
don't
before. No, he usually gets it set up before I get here.
Maybe you gotta turn the TV on and off.
Did you try the input?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Well, it's
Oh,
connected.
that's your.
But it's not, it's thinking this is a second screen because it's not pulling any of my desktop
So-
icons.
Okay, so if you go into your screen settings,
I'm
change
like
it
the world's
to.
worst, like,
You have to change your screen.
Yeah.
Like all young people.
Okay, where's your-
No, it's just function here and then it comes up with
Yeah.
the options.
I'm terrible.
So if I go.
Okay, so go here.
You're probably a whiz at computers.
No, that's what I was just saying. No, like,
projector.
my computer's like
there it is.
dying. It's got,
Okay.
the Wi-Fi's horrible.
Okay, now
I have
we're
no
just.
clue what.
See, there I helped.
Okay.
See, you did
Now we got
something.
everything.
Now-
Go, Sandy.
PowerPoint,
You
come
go,
on,
girl.
Business.
Oh, I better need my.
Somebody's gotta keep men in line in this place.
Yeah, they get a little hair crazy.
Yeah. They all need to be kept in
He
line.
just wanted us to appreciate this
Uh-huh.
video.
Right? Okay, now we're back on track. Sorry for the delay. Taxes. So agenda for tonight's presentation, a little bit of municipal finance 101, and then we're going to look at some historical data, 1997 to 2008, which is going to include property values, our mill rates, taxes levied. Then we're going to do some comparative mill rate analysis to us and our closest neighbor, as well as some of the other taxing authorities. And then finally close off by proposing 2019 tax levy.
Can I make
Sandy.
a correction?
Yeah.
You said 1997 to 2008.
8. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, okay, 2018. So, an exercise to kick things off. So I need everybody to, on a piece of paper, jot down your monthly cell phone bill.
Put it on a piece of paper.
Any
Your own
Either.
cell phone, or if you pay
Yep.
for somebody else's combined?
No, your own cell phone.
I don't know what my own is, because I pay for 4 people all at once.
Yeah, see, mine's like that with my kids, so it's $220, but my piece of it's 137. So.
Why, you gonna pay
Mine,
for
$100.
For what?
It was supposed to be $95.
Everybody got that number down?
Yeah.
Okay, so before we get too much into it, this is what a representative tax notice looks like for the municipality. So this is for a $315,000 property from 2018. And I highlighted the general municipal line and then sort of highlighted these other two water and sewer fronts.
Does this happen to be the mayor's?
This is a property located at 5102 41th Avenue. Reason I've highlighted that, folks, is because throughout the entire conversation, this is actually all we're talking about.
Yes.
Okay, it's just that one line. So, and I've kind of broken it down. So this homeowner, under the underage 65 homeowner grant column, paid $1,879 in total taxes for the year, but only $917 of that went to the municipality for general taxes. Water and sewer are a fixed rate by bylaw. And that forms part of that water and sewer revenue fund. So these technically don't hit anything else than those two purposes for which they're designed. So everything else comes out of this line, and that's really all we're talking about throughout the presentation here tonight. So income statement, revenue less expenses equals savings. So in our case, savings means reserves for sustainability by definition. But this is a standard income statement, true for every individual and organization out there. Money in, money out. If you've got something left over, you're on the right track and you're not going backwards. And that applies to corporations, us, individuals, no matter who it is. When it comes to budgeting, human nature and councils almost always focuses on the expense side of that equation. So, and we've recently seen that in the city of Dawson Creek, where a lot of the conversation is, we've got a budget problem, so we're going to cut until we're sustainable, right? And we know, we've read the articles about what they're doing, and they're still going through that as we speak. The problem with that is that it ignores half of the income statement equation, that whole revenue side. And cutting costs alone will never get an organization to long-term sustainability. And the reason why is that at some point, cutting costs no longer becomes an option. Right? You've got to operate. And operations by definition cost money. It's not possible to cut costs down to zero. You're going to have to spend something if you're doing work. But the main reason is that costs always escalate over time. So fuel, natural gas, union wage increases. So what that means, eventually, if only cost reductions occur, the municipality or whatever organization it might be eventually finds itself right back at square one. Because if an organization cuts 5% from its operating budget, really it has between 2 and 3 years to see the remaining stuff that was left on there catch up to where you were before because of inflation. So if we look at that, the illustration is an organization with $3 million of expenses, cuts the budget by 5%, everything's going great, look at us, we're saving money, we're now down to $2.85 million on an annual basis. But that's true for the first year. But year one kicks in, and there's $71,000 of inflation on the other expenses. Year two is year one plus that year's inflation, so on and so forth. So that by the end of year three, even though you were very diligent and successful in cutting the budget, the remaining stuff that wasn't able to be cut is actually now costing more than what you started with in the first place. So working solely on budget cuts always has a finite lifespan, and it eventually always catches back up with you. And really that, oops, there goes all of that savings. So much for sustainability. Now what do? Because, 3 years later, mathematically, we're actually past where we were when we started to do those cuts. But Chris, costs don't always go up 2.5%. And that's true. Some years for inflation is less, some years are more, but just stuff that's circulating around the media here this year alone is the increases in the carbon tax. I heard on the radio a couple of days ago, BC or ICBC wants to jack the rates up 6% to help address their sustainability funding gap.
Chris, also the wage increase for the medical.
Yeah, that medical one too, I didn't even put that in there, but
That's a 1%.
So that's another, and that's been 1% to some of the larger municipalities that have calculated it. I haven't calculated it for us, because it's, it's not quite as bad for us as it is for Vernon, but definitely gonna have an impact. But the one that's really evident for us too is our union contract guarantees our folks 2% this year. So we know that's going to go up. We have to do that to meet our contractual obligations. So the world keeps going on around us regardless of what we're trying to cut. How are our expenses doing? Well, we've seen some of that in the previous expense conversations. We feel we're operating at or near rock bottom levels without actually reducing services. And at this point, and I kind of mentioned it to some of you guys in the expense presentations, if we're going to look to continue to trim the operating budget, we're pretty much at the point now where something's got to go. And not to knock the library that was here or whatnot, but some of those non-essential municipal services would be the first things to go. So library, museum, for example, there'd be some savings there. But as far as the core operations, it's taken us a couple of years, but we've whittled it down to kind of that balance that's working at an expense level that makes sense. And we can say that because typically in any organization, the largest cost is wages. And in our organization, like a lot of them, that's absolutely true. But we can make that claim because just in our organization, you know, the managerial staff have 2 and 3 jobs in some cases. Our union staff are similar, but we've got, you know, most of our union staff working on part-time or modified duties. And then as far as public works goes, we've only got 3 public works employees, which is the bare minimum we need to be able to provide holidays and cover sick days and that type of stuff, right? So if we had any less employees there, we wouldn't be able to offer somebody the holidays that they have built into their contract because we couldn't meet WCB working alone requirements and all the stuff that comes along with that. So it's you know, we're at that level. And then of course we operate.
Actually, 4 public works.
Blair. Yeah, he's part of the managerial equation side of things also.
You see him in the machines too.
And that's part and parcel of this conversation too, Your Worship. Technically, he's not supposed to.
No, I know, but he gets out there and you
Yeah.
see him on the end of the shovel and stuff too.
And we're lucky that we've got, you know, a good collaborative working relationship between not only the union and administration, but the union staff and the managers, that nobody's complained that, you know, the non-unionized managers out there plowing the sidewalks in the winter.
They don't care.
You know, theoretically, according to the union manual, it's supposed to be a union person in the operation or in the assets, so. And yeah, we live in an area of high cost, we know that too. So, you know, fuel costs, long transportation distances, long winters, so on and so forth. So, as we've seen in the expense presentations, we've made big strides in minimizing those. And literally hundreds of thousands of dollars have come off the table. And, you know, what we talked about recently in administration is just one example of that. So the time comes though that we must look at the other side of that income statement equation and look over on the revenue. And if we don't, like we saw in the examples, inflation will start to erode the cost of the savings in a very, very short time, and we'll be back to where we were. So the good news is though, over on the revenue side, we've been working on that for several years as well. So a few examples are our Peace River Agreement. You know, that's up $145,000 versus what it was last year, over 15%. So we're projected to get 1.087 million in 2019 versus 942,000 in 2018. So, and that's the highest
So we
level.
were also short in 18.
Well, and that's, yeah, so we're making up for lost time. You know, we were unfortunate victims, I guess, for lack of a better word, of some pretty inaccurate statistics over at BC Stats, but that's now been fixed. So the 2019 is going to be the highest level of Peace River Agreement funds ever achieved. Over on the investment side, we've talked about this a little bit too, but our surplus cash balances and reserves are projected to earn about $137,000 in interest over the next 12 months. And that's compared to $54,000 in 2015. So huge jumps there. Like the Peace River Agreement funds, 2019 will be the highest level of passive interest revenue the village has ever achieved. Grant writing. So we hired a grant writer in 2017. He's very diligent in being proactive with us. Here's some grants. Do you have anything that would fit? So not to talk too much about that, but I feel we're getting good value out of him because he's applying for everything we can. Like most municipalities, we're successful in 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 7 grants, but you know, we're trying. So most of those grants that end up going to the big grant agencies are almost always oversubscribed. So you know, they make their decisions based on what they have available. Unfortunately though, that's pretty much where administration's limits of authority with respect to revenue come to an end. You know, the rest of the stuff sits in council's purview, you know, which include, like I say, those property taxes and then the water and sewer charges.
So Chris, can we, if we raise the taxes, can we put the water and sewer into that? So then people don't have bills?
I'd have to look into that, Your Worship. You mean just so it's not separate lines on the?
Yeah, so people don't have to pay for the water bill. It's already.
Oh, for the water bill itself?
It's already on the property tax, built into the property tax.
Yeah, but some people consume more water than other people do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how do you factor that?
It's possible, and we just have to, because we could come up with a proration, just looking at average water use and then divide it by property value, similar to other taxation, but I guess the one, the one big advantage there is it'd get us away from the darn water meters, which
Or paying.
the pain is putting it lightly.
And the guys working on.
That's life. That's life in a town,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You meter it. I mean, PNG doesn't say, well, here's a village. Let's just put it on the taxes.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah, it's,
paying for something.
Yeah.
Commodity. It's done by the month, not by the year.
It's done by every 3 months.
Well,
yeah, the bill is,
Some people
but I
buy
mean,
it
that's, right?
here. Some people have buy it here though.
yeah, and that, I mean, if that's on the table, that's something you guys would have to discuss as a council decision, but,
I just hate the freaking bills.
So, looking at some actual historical tax data. What are property taxes? So property taxes are what the municipality charges from the homeowners for revenue. They're based on $1 of revenue per $100,000 of home or property value, and that's known as the mill rate, and mill being the French word for 1,000. I'm pretty sure that's where it comes from. And the premise behind it is that as your property gets bigger, more expensive, you likely have more people in the household and therefore consume more municipal services. Property values, residential property values in Pouce have been awesome. So in 2018, average house price was $207,000 according to BC assessment. That number's up to just under $212,000 this year. Going back to 1997, that number was $54,700, so almost quadrupled. Comparing that to Exxon stock. Quite literally, on a percentage basis, a home in the village of Pouce Coupe has done better than the stock of the largest oil company on planet Earth over the same time frame.
All we needed was a hailstorm.
Right?
Perfection.
So, and that's it. So, the Pouce Coupe property owners have seen a 3.8-fold increase in their property since 1997 versus Exxon stockholders at 3.3. So, overall, it's been a good place to have some investment dollars parked. How has the village reacted to this awesome investment trend? Not so good. We've quite literally cut ourselves off at the knees by slashing the mill rates every year as the property values increase. What's that slide in there twice? That's the graph for the mill rates. So complete opposite direction.
It was 6.17 for all the time that I was on council.
Well, and we can, and that might be, shown here down in the homeowner graph, or the price graph. This is a similarly sloped low curve right back here, right?
Yeah.
But you'll see what this means over that time frame in a minute here. So, to analyze that, the mill rate, 1997 versus 2018 has dropped by 53%. Whereas house values have gone up 380% or 3.8 times. What that's done to the revenue stream. So in 1997, we were charging 0.62% of a property's value in taxes to the municipality. In 2018, we're charging less than 1/3 of a percent of the property's values in taxes going to the municipality. So while home values have almost quadrupled since 1997, the village has more than cut in half the percentage of revenue from those properties. Why? Rhetorical question. On the commercial side, it's actually been even better. So commercial property valuation in 2018, 207,000, pretty close number to the last one, versus 1997 when the average commercial property in town was valued at just under $28,000. How's the village reacted to this awesome investment trend? we've cut ourselves off at the knees by slashing the tax rate every year since. Business mill rates. So a similar period where they were just left as is and home values went up around them. And here's where we started to chop them down as house prices increased. So the analysis there is 1997 versus 2018. We have decreased the business mill rate by 63%, while property values have gone up 7.4 times. And what that's done to the taxes as a percentage of property value, the same thing as on the residential side. In 97, we levied taxes equivalent to about 1.88 or almost 1.9% of the business's property valuation. In 2018, that's dropped to 0.7. So while business values are 4 times what they were, or 7.4 times what they were in 97, the village has more than cut in half percentage revenue from those properties. Why? So, looking at that question, why? How does that happen? And the irony of it is, it actually happens with good intentions. It happens with something along the lines of that. I was elected to get the affairs of this municipality in order, to get our expenses under control, and to get this town towards self-sustainability. Very good goals. I wasn't elected to jack up taxes, and no one under my watch is going to pay a dime more than they did last year.
I didn't say that.
Fast forward 20 years, and we find ourselves in our current predicament. And again, I state that not as a criticism, those are good intentions, but the good intentions can sometimes have unintended long-term consequences. So, so just to go back and look at that, this doesn't actually say that taxes went down, because there's another slide where it shows that the value of the revenue we're getting has gone up, but it hasn't gone up in proportion with the properties, because the property values have quadrupled, taxes have been cut in half, so we have seen an increase, but not proportional to what's been happening over on the net worth side of the property owners. So we're taking the hit while the homeowners see their net worth rise dramatically over that time frame. So comparing us to some other taxing authorities, to go back to the representative property, again, this is us in the highlighted section, and everybody else is all around us. So the village has the authority to change only those highlighted lines, the general municipal tax, the sewer frontage, and the water frontage, and those are both set by bylaw and must be done within those funds. All the other lines are completely outside of our control. We've got no lobbying authority, there's no authority to delegate. We can't send a letter to the police and say, hey, we just don't think you guys should do anything with taxes this year. Folks are struggling. Their response is going to be, too bad, we tax what we need to cover our operations.
And yet you don't send any police out.
Well, yeah, that's a side discussion, but focusing in on a couple of those individually, and I know you guys have heard me say this before, the elementary school last year was one that really jumped out at us. So this is partly a slide from last year. But it was a really weird scenario that we uncovered with respect to the school. So in 2012, the orange line's the school and the red line's us. So on that tax notice, that school line that we saw, that would have been about $501 for the average representative property. That same year, we charged $473. So let's think about that for a second. The single elementary school in town, that's one property that maybe covers 5% of our total surface area, charge the residents more to operate that facility than we charge for every other municipal service that we offer. And that trend continued right up until last year, where council made the conscious decision that no, we're going to switch this, and this doesn't make sense. So last year was the first year, at least over the last 5-6 years, where we saw municipal taxes slightly higher than the school levy. Looking at everybody on the tax notice, this is an analysis going back to 2005. So this, I mentioned a moment ago, we have seen taxes go up. So 2005, the municipality was collecting about $178,000. Last year it was $336. That's a 1.88% increase. But looking at those 8 taxing authorities, we're second from the bottom. So these are everybody else. So the Peace River Regional Hospital District has seen their taxes increase 6.5 times since 2005. Municipal Finance Authority, 3.13. The Regional District, 3.02.
That's gonna go up.
The police, 2.26 times. So we're seeing the world go up around us, and we're kind of sitting in this zone of holding where we are holding pattern right now. Comparing us to our closest neighbor. So a $350,000 house, and I upped the example on this one more than our average property, just to sort of highlight it because it made it come to the forefront a little bit. But last year, a $350,000 house in Puscooby paid $1,022.42 in taxes. That same value property in Dawson Creek paid $1,920 based on their mill rate. If we look down at the business side of things, it gets even more dramatic. So a business property with $350,000 of value was $24.62 for us versus $59.83 for the city of Dawson. So some pretty big differences. And while Puscooby property owners enjoy more parks per capita and per square kilometer than the city of Dawson Creek, better road maintenance and snow clearing, in my opinion, abundant free recreational opportunities, a fully stocked and available fire department, which also on a per capita basis has more assets than the city of Dawson Creek, and proximity to all of, same services, in some cases equal proximity. The village taxes are literally a fraction of what our closest neighbor is alone. So low, in fact, that in 2018, the $336,000 that we collected didn't even cover the cost of road maintenance and snow clearing in public works. So, what do we need to do? My recommendations are modest continual increases in the levy over a long period of time. It's taken us a long time to get here. We can't flip the switch and move things to the Dawson Creek mill rate tomorrow, because that just wouldn't be reasonable for the residents. So
We want to keep the residents.
yeah, well, that's it. And so like I say, it took a long time to get here. It's going to take a long effort to get ourselves out of it. But the fact of the matter remains that if we don't address it without the Peace River Agreement funds, the village would have about 24 months to stay solvent while we try to amalgamate with the city of Dawson Creek or the PRRD. That's not a scare tactic, that's a fact. Because we collect $336,000 in taxes and we have $2.5 to $2.9 million a year of expenses. That doesn't work. So.
Now, how did we get that 2.9 million?
That's, you'll see in the agenda package, Councilor Hebert, it's the sum total of a lot of small parts. And we got a lot of big grant money come in, but it is what it is. So, there we go. Ha! Here's where the cell phone thing comes up. Councilor Drover, what's your cell phone number?
Councilor Van Keynes.
Councilor Van Keynes? Councilor Hebert?
Pardon?
Your cell phone bill?
It was $11.
11, that's a big cell phone.
Actually, it's 0 right now.
That's even better.
I know.
Okay? Okay, your worship?
140.
140?
95.
95?
What was
So-
yours again?
95.
So that's about average. So average smartphone bill is between $90 and $125 a month, and that's a screenshot right from our good friends at TELUS. That's their cheapest smartphone plan. My phone, like I mentioned, $130 a month. A basic Shaw cable TV package anywhere, that's the cheapest one.
68, 70.
Yeah, well, they're saying 75 or 120 after the first 7 months is the one that's on the website right now.
Per capita?
This is, nope, per household.
Okay.
So households in Boost, as we've kind of seen throughout the group, most of us pay twice this amount for our cell phone or our TV. So, quite literally, this means that the average homeowner in Puscooby pays twice as much for their telephone or TV package every month than they pay to have 9 people working for them, maintain the village's assets and infrastructure, enjoy recreation in 5 parks, attend Canada Day and festivals free of charge, drive clean roads, have a 24/7 animal control officer, and have their house fully protected from fire, among other things.
It's all like that.
So it's important to consider that the municipal taxes, like we saw on that last slide, go directly to fund those services. So they're not a new tax that anybody's dreamed up, like the ATV tax or new forms of taxes such as the carbon tax, which, let's be honest, nobody really knows where that money's going at the federal or provincial levels. Municipal taxes go directly back to the people who pay it or pay them. So, getting into the conclusions, with the exception of the last 2 years, as we saw on the slide, the Village of Pouce has not seen a significant tax increase in the better part of the last 20 years. So I'm starting the proposal process off with a $2 a month increase on the average residential property, mathing out to $24 a year, and then a $2.08 a month on the average business property, equating to about $25 a year. And what that looks like is this. So 2018, average levy was $600, new proposed levy is $24, and then those 2 average levies over on the business side. And this, if that number is approved by council, that's where we get this $52 a month number from. Although still raises, these increases are modest on a dollar value basis, but necessary to remedy the inactions of the past and bring the village closer to council's stated goal of self-sustainability. 60 slides?
Impressed. Very impressed.
Pretty good.
Less than 30 minutes.
What do we all think?
I'm fine with it. Sounds feasible.
$2 a month?
Now, we've always had those services, and I realize that there's an inflation rate, people, and things cost more money. I do realize that we have more things going on, like a garbage and recycling program. We have a dog catcher, we have a bylaw officer, we have lots of little things like that going on. But we're talking about services here. Now, what about infrastructure? What if we offered the village of Pouce for infrastructure, other than building a fire hall over there, which according to you guys, you need a bigger one? What's been done? And that's what people are relying on. Do the fire hydrants all work?
Yes.
Now they do? Well, how about the water and the sewer? How's that going?
We're working 100%.
100%. Everything is absolutely fantastic
We haven't had a failure in 6 months.
in 6 months. Everything's good with infrastructure.
That plan is coming in front of you guys tomorrow. And that's part of the urban systems presentation. So that's 38 pages of stats about water lines, sewer lines, culverts, pavement. So, I mean, not to jump the gun on that, but they've identified that there's about 1,400 meters of pavement that needs to be done in the next 1 to 3 years. But the rest of it actually isn't in super bad shape. So,
Well, I believe that the taxes, you do have to tax for services. You do. It's just a fact of life. Everybody knows it. Everybody doesn't mind paying it either. What I would hate to see is that you tax yourself right out of people.
Yeah.
For $2, you're not going to.
Hmm?
For $2, you're not going to. All these
You're
things-
saying $2 this year, $2 last year, $2 the year before. But is it $2?
That's what we raised it this year. $2, we'll be raising it.
it's proportional. So if,
Right.
you know, if somebody's got the average $200,000 house, it'll be $2. Somebody's got a $300,000 property, it goes up to $3. because it's based on value of the property, so. But we can't, in a tax planning, we can't go out property by property, that property right there is 92,500, so here's what it's gonna go up, and the one across the street is 150, so to make it reasonable, we work it down to the averages and base it on that, so.
Yeah.
Definitely stuff in the, in sort of the old town core doesn't have the same dollar value as what Mr. Simmons is building in his new subdivision. So is it gonna be $2 a month to some of those folks over there with a $475,000 property? But conversely, somebody, old town core here with a mobile, it's maybe only $89,000 on the tax roll, well, they'll see half of what we're presenting for the average property, so.
Well, I know that taxes have gone up from what I was paying, $365.
For all?
94. And here
They
it
try to keep
is,
it low.
26 years later, and and now it's 1,100 and somebody,
So is that just our line, Marlene, or is that your full tax bill?
That's the full tax
That's a full
bill.
tax.
So I mean, that's everything on there, and I know that.
Yeah. And that comes back to this, right? So going back to 2005, as we've seen, the world's gone up around us a lot faster than our world's gone up.
And I think what complicates it is that you have the oil and gas fair share. And it has been rolled into operations,
And it's not.
and it shouldn't be part of operations. Like, I mean, this municipality should have seen things happen for it. Somebody said, by golly, we shouldn't even have ditches anymore with the amount of money that's flowed through this place, and have council say, good enough. Let's put it into operations. Now we have great parks.
But the majority of those were done not with the fair share money, they were done with grants.
Yeah. And grants are tax money too.
Yeah.
It's not taxes too.
It's somebody's tax, well, and even the fair share too, that's ultimately some corporate,
Yeah,
tax money
exactly.
somewhere that's redistributed back to us. And I think that's part of the overall discussion here, because you're bang on, everybody else's taxes are going up around us, and how much do we want to contribute to that heartache or pain, I guess, for those taxpayers, right?
It isn't just heartache and pain. You think this little village operated on $135,000 and offered the same services as we are in 2019.
We didn't have a union back
The union isn't the only thing that's pushing
There's
this up. It still isn't the only thing that's pushing this up.
But I mean, how far are you going back to 135,000? I mean, if we're talking.
Oh, well, when
The
we
50s.
used to have an absolute fit if we heard about taxes going up. Still do.
Right, comes back to that statement. And
Still
I,
do.
as a former counselor, I've seen it too, right? The year in which I got in, two of the candidates were running on that platform, right? It was, look at me because I'm gonna fix the expenses and keep taxes, if not lower them. But
Well,
it
this-
comes back to that income statement equation. You wouldn't see a corporation make that decision if they were technically in the financial situation that we are. And I think that's part of the difference, is that in the corporate world, if the cell phone company needed to jack up that $75 rate by $5 a month in order to make a profit for the shareholders, they do it in a heartbeat. In the
Everybody
municipal
wants to
world,
be a billionaire,
yeah,
right? I mean, that's the whole thing right now. Now, everybody's got to put money in their pocket, right? And where are you going to take it from? You take it from whoever's out there that's willing to pay for it or can, right? We used to be just a buzz in this community. We had businesses, we had restaurants, we had a hospital, we had an old folks home, Peace Haven, we had the government buildings, we had gas stations all over the place. We had grocery stores, corner stores, we had it all. And it's changed where you don't have all of those things anymore. They're gone. So, I guess if you want to live here, I guess you have to pay for it. Is that the deal?
Falls in your court.
I'm all in favor of raising it.
$2 a month is not
$2 a month is not.
So this stuff is coming back again on the 17th. So that'll be the final tax, and Sandy and I were just talking today about whether or not we can get the full Schedule A budget package in front of you guys by the 17th. I don't think so. But like everything we've done so far always comes back twice, right?
What do you have to say, Ken? You're sitting over there quite quietly.
I am not in favor of raising taxes, and I'll tell you why. I do not disagree with the presentation. It is an excellent presentation. It is a reflection of the reality in which we find ourselves in.
Yeah.
And I think you are to be commended for your presentation. It is,
Thank you.
it struck home. So this is why I say no. For me, 6 months on council, right? I see the needs, but I'm still warming up to the position here. There's increase the revenue, reduce the cost, right? How we're going to balance everything. And I have not supported any means to reduce services or bring down those costs. And I feel that for this year, that was fair because I'm still warming up to the position and the needs of this community. And so that's going to be reflective in raising taxes as well. For this year, until I get a bigger picture, for which I was elected to do in my mind. Next year, there will be recommendations. There may be recommendations for reductions in services and increases in taxes. But for this current budget, for considering the tax rate for next year, or this year, 2019, I would not be in favor for a raise. I don't think 2%, $2 is going to make a difference in the long scheme of things in how we're running the community.
It'll help.
It will help, but it's not going to make a big difference.
$33,000.
Yep.
So the cumulative net effect of that $2 a month increase across the residential and the business sectors is $33,000.
I fully understand, but for this 1 year, I'm going to say personally, as one of 4 votes, no to a tax increase.
Donna?
I said yes.
You say yes? Ryan?
No.
We'll have to see what Barb has to say.
So we hold off the decision until
Till Barb.
next meeting, Barb's here? Okay.
So, and then you're number 3.
And number 3?
Yeah.
Oh, motion for security camera.
Motion for the screen cameras. So there's this. Just to refresh your mind, folks. Capital special approved project list, the final one approved by council, where the big part was in the single year, so on and so forth. Down here, we have the security camera line. and it wasn't flagged for pre-approval, like some of the other stuff was, so,
You
in
want to
light,
approve?
in light of what happened over the weekend, we're,
So,
we can move on this faster than May 15th if you guys want us to, and we just gotta
so
pass
can I have a
a motion.
motion on the floor that,
Motion to buy security cameras.
and can I have a seconder? All in favor?
Next step, I'll come back to you guys with some quotes.
Okay, number 4, no, number 3 was Chris, number 4 was motion.
Budget meeting April 30th.
To change budget meeting till April 30th, Chris?
Yeah.
Sandy?
Not to change, to add.
Uh,
All in favor? You'll send me a reminder, right?
I will,
It's the 30th, and we're having a meeting on 30th?
that's the Tuesday before,
That's the last day of tax
Tax
time.
May
No, I
3rd.
can't.
oh, right.
29th, can we do it?
That's
Uh,
Monday.
Absolutely up to you guys, that, I just picked the 30th, I didn't even think of that, your worship, but that was the Tuesday before, same pattern that we've been doing all along, so.
Well, I can't, well, you guys can have it without me, because I can't go.
We can look at the calendar and bring it back tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Scratch that one.
Okay.
Okay, so, can I have a
Just to say, do that.